All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Just Hoop Talk. You're with Justin Henry, Will Thompson, and today we're going to be talking about the crazy offseason that was, the quick offseason. We're going to look over free agency and just some of the moves that took place, including some trades, talking about some winners and losers from the offseason. Stay tuned.
You are now tuned in to the next best thing. Justin Henry, Will Thompson.
Yeah,
Let's go.
y'all can talk that talk, but this is just hoop talk. Updates on the news, analysis who's who gon' win, who gon' lose. Is it true? Is it true? This is just hoop talk. This is just hoop talk. Ball.
All right, guys, so today on Just Hoop Talk, we're going to be talking about free agency in the offseason that was. But before that, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel.
Yep.
Will, man, this offseason was crazy, bro, and it was quick. It came up quick right after the draft. What are your thoughts on free agency overall this season?
Ooh, it was hectic, man. Like you said, it was condensed. There wasn't a lot of the kind of the old courtship, right? Like team will fly a guy out, show him the facilities, give him the whole rundown or whatever, try to win somebody over. There was none of that. It was just like, here was the draft. Now free agency. Do you want to come play here or not? Like, the free agents were like, well, are you going to pay me or not? And so I think there was some big moves, but a lot of players re-signed as well. Like, I think a majority of guys re-signed, even players who weren't free agents ended up signing longer contracts. De'Aaron Fox, Jason Tatum, young guys who obviously didn't want to test free agency. So a lot happened in a short amount of time. Definitely some winners, definitely some losers. But yeah, it was definitely condensed and intense and different than anything we've ever really seen before. Which is that's 2020, man.
Man, that it is. We saw some teams get rid of cap space. We saw some teams think they were going to make trades and didn't make trades, including the Sacramento Kings. Man. It was a crazy offseason. I think a lot of that just had to do with the layoff. Like some teams obviously had been off since March, April. That was the end of their season. And then some teams had been off really just for a month and didn't have time to evaluate really what was in-house. And so with the quick draft and a shortened season for some and a longer season for others, you saw some moves that looked like they were already pre-planned, predetermined, and then you saw some others that just got fumbled completely, man. Now, I want to start off with just some major moves at the top of the game, man. The Los Angeles Lakers made some moves, man. What were your thoughts on the Lakers offseason? And obviously, I want to talk a little bit about some winners, too, of the offseason.
Yeah. I think the Lakers are definitely winners for sure this offseason. It's interesting because I talked a little bit about that before. I wanted to see them get a little younger. And I think they actually did get a little bit younger. But I think what's really important is they got a lot of experience back as well, because with this really short off season, experience is going to be important, man. Like there's not really going to be a training camp. The young players are going to struggle, I think, this year, trying to learn a system, trying to adjust to the league. So guys with experience are going to shine, and Lakers have a ton of experience, guys with championship experience. It looks like they just re-upped Dennis Schroeder. I think that's a huge pickup, man. Like that's similar to the Rondo
getting a younger
pickup,
Rondo.
but younger. Yeah, you're getting a young Rondo, man. He's tough. He's been so underrated for so long. This is his opportunity to really shine in a big spot. Marcus Gasol is such a big pickup. Wesley Matthews is low key a really good defender, a guy who can catch and shoot.
Yep.
And then obviously Montrezl Harrell is huge, just taking him from across the town. That was a big L for the Clippers, man. Like that had to hurt. But they look like they went from the best team in the league to losing a bunch of guys to being the best team in the league again, just like that. So props to them. They're definitely a winner for sure this offseason.
Yeah, you see, the teams that were there trying to compete for a championship, obviously it looks like they were trying to make moves. And one of the trades that really stuck out was the Drew Holiday trade to the Bucks, man.
Yeah,
Just getting that piece for Giannis. They were trying to keep him there. There was talks about him leaving all offseason and a
right.
lot of uncertainty regarding Giannis. But I think that Drew Holiday move is a little underrated, and that they get a perimeter defender.
Definitely.
They get another piece that they can have. And yeah, they had to part with, George Hill and Eric Bledsoe. But it was a really strong move to acquire a potential championship piece for that team, somebody else that can take a little bit of pressure off of Giannis along with Middleton, gives them also a perimeter defender that they didn't have to go with Giannis, who can kind of play both the wing and the post at an elite level defensively. And another team that also had a really successful offseason, the Atlanta Hawks. They are my winner, man. The pieces that they added, obviously they were a young team, and you kind of saw them building, Cam Reddish, Trae Young. You saw Kevin Huerter there. Like, they were trying to build that Warriors, heavy guard play. And then they made that trade that they got Capella last year. And you're like, all right, something's building here with this team. And then you saw it this offseason. They're going for in the East, acquiring Rajon Rondo, Chris Dunn, Danilo Gallinari, and Bogdan Bogdanovic. They paid up for some of these guys, man. And now they got a set of 9 players that can contend with a lot of teams, man. What were your thoughts on the Hawks?
Yeah, I thought they clearly are making a move to be contenders in the East, right?
Yeah.
Like, they went from a team that, like, hey, they could be good, next year. They got a lot of solid young pieces. They might sneak into the 8th or 7th seed like that. And now they look like a team that's, top 5, honestly, in the Eastern Conference. They have the skill. They have the ability. They also picked up the Onyeka Okongwu from the draft, too, who's going to be a solid big man on top of all the free agency moves that they made. So they look really good. I think they helped Trae Young out a lot, getting him off the ball all the time. And so we'll be able to see Trae kind of playing that 2 spot, which I think is really interesting for him. They're going to be a really interesting team next year. Rondo's going to bring a lot of leadership. I think he's going to help Trae a ton. We saw what he did with the Lakers last year. They're going to be a team to watch, man. I'm really excited to see them. Not to mention the young fellas, Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter coming off the bench. I'm assuming they'll probably be coming off the bench. And then, Bogey getting buckets, doing what he does. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's good when you see those young teams really make aggressive moves.
Yeah.
And obviously we can't go talking about free agency without talking about the trade that was Chris Paul to the Phoenix Suns, man. And they also got Jay Crowder. That's a strong move for a team that was in the bubble, 8-0 in the bubble. Obviously, they look ready, man. They look ready, like they want to compete. Yeah, they had to give up Kelly Oubre to get it done. But that was a heavy move for a strong Western Conference, man, that doesn't really have a lot of room for error, a lot of room to bring new teams in. You think the Suns have what it takes and did the right moves in order to make a playoff push next year?
Yeah, I think the Suns are similar to the Hawks, where they have a guy or 2 guys that they feel like they can build around,
Yeah.
Like the Hawks clearly feel like Trae Young is the guy that they can build around and John Collins. And the Suns clearly felt like Devin Booker's ready. DeAndre Ayton is showing signs of being ready. Like, let's build around these guys. Let's get them at that next level. And they made moves accordingly. And so that was really, really – it's really interesting. And it's also like, you look at some other teams and you wonder, like, damn, why aren't other teams doing that? You know what I mean? Like, so it was really, it's interesting to see. And as a fan of a small market team, it looks to me like that's the way you do it, man. You get your young fellas in the draft. You suck for a few years. We get it. You get your young fellas. You get your cornerstones, your superstars, and then you surround them. Once they grow to a level where they're elite, you surround them with great players. And I feel like that's what they've done, man. Chris Paul is an all-time great point guard. They're bringing him in. Jay Crowder is a really good defender, a guy who can knock down shots, playoff experience, last year NBA Finals experience. They're gonna be really interesting. And the West just got just that much better, man. That's a team that wasn't in the playoffs last year.
Yep.
That'll be in the playoffs this year. It's gonna be really good. So the West is just stacked.
Yeah, they're deep, man. I honestly, they re-upped Dario Saric. They got
Yeah.
Cam Johnson there ready too. Like
Yep.
that team is legit, man. And
Yeah.
you start looking at other teams too that are making really underrated moves. And a team that sticks out to me is the Philadelphia 76ers, man.
Yeah.
They're a team that obviously they got a new head coach, Doc Rivers, in there.
Mm-hmm.
They got, Daryl Morey coming in there, and Morey we trust going into effect right now. But bringing in some players and getting rid of Al Horford's contract, I think, was a very, very underrated move for this team. They brought in Seth Curry. They brought in Dwight Howard. They brought in Danny Green to bring in some of that outside shooting, and then also another big presence that this team was missing with Al Horford kind of not being what they thought he was going to be when they signed him. Did you like the Sixers' moves? Do you think they did enough to improve their status there in the East?
Yeah, I loved it. I think when you look at them, like, you realize they were, Kawhi Leonard shot away from potentially going to the finals, So they didn't need to do a lot. I think a lot of people kind of felt like they needed to do a lot, but they didn't really need to do a lot. They needed to get rid of the Al Horford contract to free themselves up a little bit. And then they surrounded their guys with shooters, man. And I think that's going to give Ben Simmons a lot of confidence moving forward. I think he missed, like, a JJ Redick, a guy who's just a pure, just knockdown shooter. So he has two of those guys now in Seth and then Danny Green. And it's going to open up the floor, give those guys more space to work with. And then you just let your superstars be superstars, man. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Get, Al Horford out of the way because he kind of bottled things up, spread the court, and let those guys do their thing. So I'm excited to see them this year get back to kind of an elite team in the East.
Yeah, you see teams making aggressive moves, and then you start to look at some of these other teams that either A, didn't make any moves, or B, just made some moves that you're questioning, man.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the losers of this offseason. And to me, I see a big loser that everybody's talking about as a winner, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not sure what these guys are doing, man. They're built for like 7 years down the line, and I get it. You saw the success what happened with Boston. You're like, all right, man, maybe that's the formula. But to me, you also saw this happen with the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're still struggling to find an identity 8 years later after they started their plan. So, yeah, you can acquire a bunch of draft picks, but you still have to go draft. And when you trade away a Chris Paul, when you're taking on bad contracts, when you have nothing but draft picks and young players, it's like, how do you even begin to build? Because these guys are going to know how to win until a lot of them are going to be looking for new contracts anyway. Did you like what the Thunder were doing?
I guess in theory, it makes sense. Like, they're trying to be like the New England Patriots of the NBA, where they're just like, get rid of guys before they turn out to be anything good, and then we don't have to pay them a bunch of money, or like, I don't know. But if you look at this team and this franchise, they've had 3 MVPs at one point or another on their team and have nothing to show for it. So they're like a development league, or they're like a development team for the NBA, right? Like, they trade guys, they move up in the draft, they draft guys, they develop them, they trade those guys, they get more draft picks, they get those guys and they develop them, they trade those guys. Like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna trade Shea next? Like, I don't understand what they're what point they're trying to get to. They're always like a good playoff team, right? So they get themselves in position to be in the playoffs. Somehow you're like, how is the team still in the playoffs? And then you think, well, damn, they got potential. And then they just trade those guys, bro. So I don't understand. I don't know, man. I really don't know. They're just like a development team, like the Oakland A's of basketball. I've never really understood it. At some point you
can't figure it out.
At some point you got to pay your guys, make a legit run at the championship, and I don't know, man. I really can't explain it. Like,
if you're an OKC fan, what are you thinking to yourself? Like, okay, man, let me get season tickets for 2026. Like, it doesn't make sense. I guess in the grand scheme of things, the West is so tough that you probably figure there's a 3-year window where you're not going to be in contention, you're not going to be a winner. So you blow it up. But then at the end of the day, like, you have no chance to win games. Danilo's gone, Chris Paul's gone. Like, at this point, you don't really have anything left but kind of just bones and 2022 draft picks and 2023 draft picks. And
Yeah.
that's all nice if you hit the right player. If you hit a KD, you hit a Westbrook. But then at the end of the day, if all you can do is just hope that you can trade for one, another superstar in the future, man, that's a tough way to build. And so hopefully those guys know a lot more than we do about what the plan of attack is and what they can do, because otherwise they're going to end up looking like this other team. I think that was a big loser. And that's the New York Knicks. What are the Knicks doing, man? What are they doing? Like, I don't understand the Knicks at all, man. Do you?
No, it's interesting because we're kind of comparing these two teams, but the weird thing is, like, they're almost kind of opposites. Like, the Knicks refuse to blow it up. They refuse to just blow it up and start the draft. And, like, the Thunder were a playoff team and are blowing it up. So it's like, what is going on here? But the Knicks, man, they just, I don't know. They can't get right, man. I hope the draft pick of Obi Toppin, I hope that turns out better than I personally think it will. I hope I'm wrong about him, but
I like Obi. I think he's going to be a solid player, man.
Yeah, I see him as either Kenyon Martin or he's Tom. What was his name?
Oh, Thomas Robinson.
Thomas Robinson. Yeah, Thomas Robinson. Like, I see a lot of Thomas Robinson in him, like super undersized, super athletic. But I hope for the best for him. But
of course,
even in free agency, like, it was underwhelming. Like, there's no one on their roster. They have money to spend. Like, they weren't able to get the job done again. It's sad, man. It's really sad. A proud franchise. They play in the one of the greatest arenas in basketball, and they just can't get right, man. Like, they cannot get right.
There's talks of Gordon Hayward going there, and then that went away. There's talks of them trading the farm for Chris Paul, and then that went away. There's talks of, like, potentially signing Melo there, and that went away. And it's like, at some point, man, like, what are you holding on for? I think there was even talks of, like, Mitchell Robinson going to Golden State for the number 2 pick. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the Knicks are doing, and they're just one of those teams that's just kind of confusing, man, to think about. Like, and as a fan, you see them, it's just like, I feel bad for you. If you're a Knicks fan and you're watching this, like, I truly feel for you, man. I don't know what to say, and I don't know when it's going to end or when the bleeding stops. James Dolan is in charge of the team, and so I don't know. I'm not going to speak on it anymore. But I do like the fact that they added Leon Rose, there. And so I think that hopefully they're going to try to change the culture there. We'll see. Because otherwise, you start to look at other teams where the noise becomes the effect. And that's the Houston Rockets, man. This offseason was a little different for them in that they had Russell Westbrook, James Harden, both trade rumors, want to leave the team. But then they actually made some decent moves. I think getting Christian Wood was a huge move that was really underrated here in the basketball community. What are your thoughts on the Houston Rockets this offseason?
Yeah, I think we're going to kind of see them obviously abandon the small ball thing and kind of get back to what they were doing with Clint Capella. Yeah, I think I kind of see them, being able to get a big man who can run the floor, catch lobs, help with their guys driving. I think that helps to have that option to lob rather than every time you drive it's a kick out. Yeah. So I really hope that James Harden and Russell Westbrook can just lock in and focus on the season at hand and not let that thing spin out of control, because there's a lot of potential for that to just take a quick dive, man, straight to the ground because of.
You had another piece like DeMarcus Cousins' personality in there, like that. Another alpha personality, like that becomes a whole different locker room. I like that addition, though, and I like with DeMarcus Cousins. I think that he's at a point in his career now where he plays the vet role. He seems a lot more, self-centered and more on a prove-it ground than he was, like, kind of angry at everybody type of a relationship. It seems like he's just ready to be hungry. Improving. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what DeMarcus can bring, and I think that he has a lot of potential there, even with the crazy things that are going on in Houston right now. Any other winners or losers that you want to talk about?
Who do I got in here, man? No, that was pretty much it, man. I mean, you can always count the Kings as losers. It's weird because with the Kings, you get in a new management or a GM and whole new team, and it's like the same things are happening.
Yeah.
The bogey trade not going through was, I mean, I guess I see it from the Kings' perspective, like, you're assuming that this guy would want to go play with the Bucks, right? So, like, we'll trade him, put him in a good situation.
Yeah.
But you got to have a conversation with the guy before you trade him. Would you want to do this sign and trade? But it's same old thing with the Kings.
Same thing.
Yeah.
These guys, the Kings, man. I don't know. I hope they know more than we do, man. Just in what the plan, what the goal is. Obviously, I got new GM, so they're probably trying to balance some old pieces, new pieces, probably some conversation lost. You just don't want to see things botched, and I kind of feel like that happened with the Boston Celtics. Gordon Hayward, letting him go for nothing. Like, they're assuming that he's going to take, I think it was like a $34 million player option, and he declined it.
Yeah.
Declined $34 million to go sign in Charlotte there and play with LaMelo Ball, man. I think that was a sneaky move for the Hornets, but for the Celtics, man, to not get anything in return, losing a piece like Gordon Hayward, man, I that could prove to be detrimental. We'll see, because they're a pretty deep team already, but I think that was a big piece, and to not get anything back capital-wise might have been a big mistake, but who knows, man? We got the season coming up here. We're going to be talking a lot more about our predictions, our grades. Let us know what you guys think. Who are the biggest winners and losers this offseason? Of course, we're always going to be in the comments debating with you guys, so let us know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe. Just Hoop Talk, another edition of the books. We're out.